And with us now, NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray, Basil Smikle, professor of practice at the School of Professional Studies at Columbia University, also a former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Lance Trover, a Republican strategist and a former spokesman for North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum's presidential campaign.
So, Mark, the NBC News poll also shows an enormous gender gap. Men backing Trump by 18 points, while women back Harris by 16 points. What does this tell us?
Just how divided we are. I mean, you look at how women and men are in different places on this ballot. You can also look at it rural voters versus urban voters, voters by education, voters with college degrees, overwhelmingly backing Kamala Harris, voters without college degrees backing Donald Trump. And you add it all together, and that's why we're getting numbers that show 49-49, or in some of the battleground states, it's 48-47. But always do note that but there are people who are in the middle, and that persuadable middle does decide elections. And so in our poll, we have independents. Harris is ahead of them by 8 percentage points. You know, late deciders will end up mattering. But overall, you know, when we get to like what our poll shows, just how fundamentally divided we are as a country.
Basil, what do you make of the gender gap when it comes to the results?
Well, it's interesting because, to your point, you know, what Kamala Harris has had to do in this short period of time is both persuasion and GOTV. And in that, for that small percentage of voters that might be persuadable, I think about, you know, the Julia Roberts ad. I think because they wouldn't have put money behind that if they didn't think that there was something there where a lot of women may want to vote differently from what their husbands may want them to do. I think about the language of Donald Trump and his supporters at MSG. So all of these things happening late in the campaign gives, to me, Kamala Harris an edge because she has the money to spend, the opportunity and the messaging to be able to go after that small segment of voters.
And Lance, over the past few weeks, we've heard, talk from Donald Trump, from his allies about shooting through the press, pointing guns at Liz Cheney, calling Puerto Rico garbage, giving RFK Jr. and Elon Musk major roles in the White House. Is that the best message to close with?
I say this time and again, I think it's best when both sides stick to the issues, and certainly Donald Trump, if he sticks to the issues, he leads on the economy, he leads on immigration every single time. It's his winning message. I just don't think there's like an ownership on either side. I mean, we've spent the last month of October, the Harris campaign, amplifying fascism, amplifying Hitler and Nazism and the other stuff. So as much as I'm critical of when Trump says stuff like that, I'm also critical of the other side. To Basil's point, though, I think it's very interesting that the Harris campaign has kind of made a strategic move here at the end. And I think it stems from, we saw reporting last week in the New York Times and also some in the Washington Post this morning, where Harris's super PAC has been warning the campaign about the talk of fascism and the attacks on Donald Trump's character and saying that that's not been working. And I think that's why you're seeing a pivot to the completely positive messaging that she's got going here in the last 48 hours of the race. So what that tells me is she's not closed the deal, and she still has some work to do with the independents that you were talking about and getting them to the polls for her.
I mean, all campaigns do change their message in the final days, in the final weeks. I mean, it's a process. It's a work in process. But Lance, I'm wondering, like, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal urging people to vote for Trump, saying in part, I don't agree with Trump 100% of the time, but I do agree with him most of the time, and I disagree with Ms. Harris nearly all the time. That makes this an easy call. It certainly hasn't seemed like it's been an easy call for her in the past. What do you make of this? And is there anything that this could have an impact on in these final hours?
Well, look, we have 7 states that are in half a point, right? I mean, Mark's been talking about the polling, so you need to buckle up for the next couple of days because it's going to be a wild ride. And I think that, look, the Trump campaign needs help with some of those voters out there. I'm glad to see she's saying what she's saying and putting that op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. I think that she echoes probably what a lot of people do. They don't necessarily love some of Donald Trump's rhetoric. I mean, voters are very clear-eyed about who he is in terms of what he says at some of his rallies and stuff. But if you look at the polling, it consistently shows that they look back at his presidency quite fondly, and they know that they were better off financially during his presidency than they are now when prices are up over 20% over the last 4 years. So you put that together, I think she echoes the sentiment of many voters out there who may not love some of his rhetoric, but they certainly look at his policies as being good for the country and getting the country back on track.
And just a reminder, Nikki Haley's called Trump unhinged, that he wasn't qualified to be the president of the United States because of things he said about the military and U.S. service members. But I want to pivot to what we just saw out of Idaho in this latest polling that really sent shockwaves, that sent shockwaves through the political universe this weekend. This is a state Trump won by more than 8 points in 2020. And the Des Moines Register sees the vice president up by 3 points within the margin of error. Again, this is in Iowa. Mark, well, how do you read this poll?
I think there are two ways to read it. One, Ann Selzer, who conducts this, is one of the most respected pollsters, public pollsters in the country. And so we end up getting sometimes some shocking results. And I think we have to actually take her numbers very seriously. They could actually be showing momentum. Even if Harris isn't able to win a place like Iowa, her performance with female voters, females with college degrees, could say something. But the other way to kind of read it, there are outliers that we end up having in polling, even by the best pollsters that are out there. And so the guidance that I have, and I'm trying to communicate, is we should take this poll absolutely seriously, but also a little skeptically, too.
Well, the vice president is spending her final full day in Pennsylvania, going throughout the state, but not leaving Pennsylvania. There's questions of, is this a day when maybe she should be in other states as well?
Pennsylvania is very important, and I know from the last couple of weeks, so many people I know are getting on the bus and going to Pennsylvania, they're going to other states. And she spent a lot of time in Wisconsin as well. So I don't think anything is off the table, but clearly there's a lot of emphasis on Pennsylvania. And going to the point about the economy, because I have to say this, the economy has been better. By every major metric, the economy has actually done better under Joe Biden's presidency. Yes, prices are up and inflation had gone up a little bit. But I have to tack that to the rhetoric, because what Donald Trump has done is made people say that their neighbor has been the one rigging the system against them. That is not true. Whether you're an immigrant, whether you're a person of color in this country, they are not your enemy. And what Kamala Harris has tried to say is that, look, there are forces out there, there are institutions, there are people that are the ones that are rigging the system against you, making you feel like you have to project that anger and that frustration on your neighbor. So when you tie the economy to the rhetoric, Donald Trump has tried to point the finger, and Kamala Harris's campaign has said, no, it's all of us in this together moving forward. And that energy is what's fueled the last couple of months of this campaign.
And guys, let's do a lightning round real quick in terms of what we'll be watching for tomorrow night. I'll start with you, Lance.
It's the big three: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, no question about it.
Mark?
Your state of Florida.
Really?
Because, and not because who's going to win, because it casts the ballot so quickly. And even though we expect Trump to win, we're going to be able to measure his strength or weakness, and vice versa for Harris, really fast by 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. So I think we'll know how the winds are blowing, even if we don't know who's going to actually win.
And what?
The whole state. We will see almost every ballot counted in a 2-hour period in Florida. So it's going to move very fast, and we'll get the first great indication of how the night is going.
I'm looking at Pennsylvania. I'm looking at Colin Allred in Texas. I'm also looking at the African-American voters, because Donald Trump spent a lot of time trying to suppress that vote. Kamala Harris trying to bring that out. So I'm looking at those numbers carefully.